Hi, this is an epilogue to the 93 Chevy diesel truck repair story, the 6.5 liter turbo diesel. What ended up happening with this truck after I did that repair of removing the sock and everything seemed like it was working perfectly well, I did a couple of quick trips around town and the truck was running great, which led me to the false assumption that everything was okay. So I took the truck out to a town that's about 45 minutes drive away from here. And I got all the way out there, no problem. And then on the way back, maybe 10 minutes down the road, the truck started to run poorly. And then it finally just ended up dying. And I limped it into a parking lot, got it to restart enough to limp it into a parking lot, pulled over and found fuel coming out on the ground. And what I found was this. All right, so what you're looking at right there is see if I can zoom in on it. What you're looking at right there is part of the steel fuel line. Now that's the return line. Now it's completely broken off now. That was my doing. What had happened was the line had split and fuel was spraying out onto the ground. And I first thought it was a supply line, and then I realized, well, no, that's the return line. So I ended up breaking the line off and I ran it into a container and the truck restarted. And I realized that for whatever reason the broken return line appeared to be causing the problem, or so I thought. So what I ended up doing was I managed to cobble together an emergency field repair with a short piece of tubing and a couple of clamps. I cut out the section that was damaged on the hose that was leaking, and I clamped, I tightened in, I put in a little splice of clear plastic tubing and tightened the clamps, had no leaks, the truck restarted. I started driving down the road and it started to run poorly again within minutes. And then I ended up, took me forever to get home, but I finally limped it on home. Turns out what I should have done was I should have got back under the truck and opened up that tubing again and relieved the pressure into a container again. Because what I've now discovered is I've got a blockage in my return line to the tank. And what's happening is I still have my fuel gauge hooked up under the hood too, and what was baffling me was I was getting plenty of fuel pressure. The key is the return line from the diesel injection pump, the standardized pump, requires a specific internal pressure to operate properly. And if the internal pressure is excessive due to a restricted or blocked return line, what will happen is it'll cause the truck to stall, stumble, and not run. So I couldn't even get the truck restarted when I first started playing around with it today. And then I disconnected my patch, ran the end of the return line, the broken end of the return line there, into this little jug, and the truck started up rather quickly and ran smoothly. Of course, all the fuel was not going back to the tank, it was going into that container there. So I then tried putting forced air into the return line, which I'll show you that in a second. So someone had replaced these lines on this truck partially. So this is the point right here where there was a union right there. And this is all new line going back to the tank. Both the supply coming up to the pump here and the return. Brand new lines going back to the tank. And remember, I also thought that the sending unit looked pretty new too. So I think whenever they did the tank and the sending unit, that they did the lines too at the same time. And here's my little repair coupling piece of hose. And I tried putting compressed air down this hose and it won't go. It's just completely blocked. So, you know, if it was an old line, I'd think, well, maybe the line had collapsed or something. But this is rigid line and it's fairly new. So I thought about it and I realized, you know, the only thing I did was I dropped the tank to get that sock off. And then when I reinstalled the tank, I wonder if I bent or damaged the line somehow. So what I did was I got underneath the truck here and I shined a light up there and I took a good look. And lo and behold, these two new rigid lines transition to flex lines that go up to the sending unit. And if you look up there, you can just see where what I ended up doing by accident when I was putting this tank back up, is I inadvertently managed to kink that line. Well, hopefully you can see it. See if I can put the light down so that I can point it out to you, but it's up there on the top of the frame. Let's see if I can get my hand around. Alright, right here is the electrical connection. Move that out of the way. Right here, this line is completely looped around itself and has completely kinked. And that's why I've got a restriction of my return line. And what that caused is high pressure to build up in the return line, and then the corroded, rusted part of the line, which was the weakest link, blew. But now, to fix this, I've got to get this line unkinked, and I'm only hoping that I can somehow get this thing relocated in a way so it'll unkink without me having to drop this tank again. Well, there's crap falling in my face and eyes now, so I gotta get a face shield. Okay, I have rerouted that line, and I think I've got it straightened out enough so it's not kinked. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my air injector here from my compressor right into this hose. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's bubbling in the tank, so that's what I was not getting. So now I know that my line is now going to be able to pass fuel back to the tank. So now all I need to do is effect a repair for this this corroded fuel line here. This corroded fuel line actually transitions back to soft line right here. So I might be able to actually do a splice there, because I don't really want to reuse this. This is really badly corroded. Well, that fitting on the end of that corroded piece of hose that I already threw out at the auto parts store, turns out that fitting, it's a special fitting that would be on the end of a original GM fuel line. If I went to the dealership and bought the fuel line, and actually it's supposed to have a little O-ring in there too. Problem is that they don't sell that at the auto parts store as just that fitting, so I'd have to buy the line attached to it, and it'd be expensive. And so I decided instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, neighbors are getting a modular home delivered, so I had to take a break to watch that. Long story short, I'm going to stuff this hunk of new hose over the ends and clamp it on and be done with it. Alright, so I cut the hose, I clamped one end of the hose onto the return line going back to the tank, and I cut it to size, and now my problem is I've got a cut end of hose that I need to make with a cut end of hose. So to get around that problem, I've got this piece of junk from my scrap metal pile, and I got a piece of tubing here that's the right diameter, pretty good condition. I'm going to cut a piece out with my little tubing cutter here and use it as a splice. Oh, it was a nice theory, but the problem is after I cut the pipe, I could see that it's too small. So, shoot. Double barbed fitting would be the perfect thing for this, but I don't have one. Oh, here's a little piece of copper tubing that I cut off that looks like it might work. Well, I finished putting the double nipple in and fixing the line underneath there, the return line, and then ended up repairing the truck. And all the video I shot of the test after that and everything was inadvertently erased before I had a chance to do the editing. So in order to close out this part 3, I decided the least I could do is just shoot a video now showing you that the truck is running well. Let's see, I did that repair. It's Halloween now, so I think I finished that repair about 3 weeks ago now, or at least 2 weeks ago. Truck's been sitting for a few hours now. It's about 40 degrees today, and So this is pretty much a cold start. But I've been driving it around for the past 3 weeks, and it's been running just fine. Start right up. And purring like a kitten. And then as far as the fuel pressure goes, I still got my gauge in there. Which I gotta get around to taking that off, but about 4.5 psi. But the main thing is it runs great. So now this repair is done.